A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Muthanayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
President meets Indian Premier. 3 generators at Norachole inoperational. Final decision on power cuts to be made tomorrow. Is the former intelligence officer who committed suicide the real suspect in the assassination of Lasantha Wickrematunge? Opposition calls for those involved in the bomb scam to be punished intensify.
Now for the stories in detail. The 3 generators at the Norachole coal-fired power plant are currently inoperational. Now, could this lead to power cuts? The Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy says a final decision will be made on the matter tomorrow. Newsfirst visited the Norachole power plant today.
සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දෛනිකව මෙගාවොට්
900 megawatts are added to the national grid daily through the Norachole coal power plant. The CEB requests the public to use electricity sparingly. They add that there might be a requirement for power cuts if electricity is not used sparingly in this time frame.
ප්‍රකාශ කර සිටිනවා.
The first generator at the power plant ceased operations after an explosion last evening on a pipeline that carries water vapor. After the explosion, a fire had erupted in the third generator. The second unit had also ceased operations as a result. The Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy says that a high-tension power line that transmits power to Anuradhapura and Kothmale also malfunctioned as a result.
I ordered the Secretary, Dr. Batakoda, to call for a report on the situation that arose with the transmission system, and this report is to be compiled within a week. According to what they have told us, the second generator could be restored in 4 days. It is being reported to us that it will take a week for the first generator to come online. The third generator has been functioning the best so far, and it will take close to a month to restore.
The CEB says that with the prevailing dry weather conditions, about 42 million units of electricity are being consumed each day. Of this, 35 million units are being supplied by thermal power plants. Only 5 million units are generated from hydropower plants. 50% of the energy added to the national grid from thermal power stations comes from Norachole. According to the ministry, the breakdown at the Norachole plant has caused the national grid to lose 1/6 of the power supplied.
On behalf of the CEB, I express my disappointment regarding the situation that has arisen. We expect that it may be necessary to impose power cuts, especially during the night. During the day, if we receive water from the Mahaveli, we will be able to manage. However, if there is a need for any power cuts, we will inform the public regarding the time during which the supply will be interrupted.
The National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection says an investigation should be held into whether the breakdown at the Norachole power plant was deliberate.
We pay a large sum of money as a deposit in order to receive an uninterrupted power supply. The rulers must look into this. An investigation must be held. Steps must be taken to prevent the recurrence of such incidents. At the same time, a proper system must be introduced for purchasing power from private power stations. The authorities' commitment during the last breakdown to be able to quickly restore the generators if another breakdown were experienced has been limited to talk. We also suspect whether the CEB will use this as an excuse to purchase power from the private sector. So-called experts are not engaging in any struggle to resolve this matter before the next breakdown happens. We have already planned to immediately commence construction of a 300 megawatt combined cycle power plant to be completed by 2018. In addition, another 170 megawatts will be added to the grid from the south by 2020. At the same time, renewable energy like solar and wind power will be expanded in a big way. When this is completed, we can have a better grid.
President Maithripala Sirisena met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today on the sidelines of the 2016 BRICS BRIMSTEC Outreach Summit currently being held in Goa, India.
Upon reaching the Bengaluru International Airport, President Sirisena arrived in Goa aboard a special aircraft. President Maithripala Sirisena was received by Minister of State for External Affairs of India, M.J. Akbar, and was accorded a guard of honour by the Indian Tri-Forces. The President attended the summit upon a special invitation extended by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. During the meeting between the two leaders of the two countries in Goa today, Prime Minister Modi had said that President Sirisena's participation at the summit gives great strength to the region. While noting that Sri Lanka has a significant role in the SAARC region, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he invites Sri Lanka for a deep relationship beyond the agreements and regulations. President Maithripala Sirisena, who recalled the assistance given to Sri Lanka by India at times of difficulty, said that the Indian Premier's invitation for the BRICS Outreach Summit strengthens relationship between the two nations. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena met and held bilateral discussions with Nepal's Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal and Bhutanese Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay. President Maithripala Sirisena also met and held discussions with Myanmar's Minister for Foreign Affairs Aung San Suu Kyi, where she was extended an invitation to visit Sri Lanka. Issuing a communique, the President's media division said that while commending Sri Lanka's democratic transition, Minister Aung San Suu Kyi had expressed her willingness to donate an elephant calf at the temple of the sacred tooth relic in Kandy.
Opportunity that the President has got during the India BIMSTEC Summit and the BRICS BIMSTEC Summit is a rare one, in that he gets to meet a number of world leaders in two settings. One in the setting of BIMSTEC, and that would allow him to participate in the discussion on regional issues, Bay of Bengal issues, the issues that matter to us in this region, and how and what role Sri Lanka has to play beyond its borders in cooperating with these countries in the region.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who left the island for an overseas visit, reached Brussels, Belgium this evening.
The objective of the Prime Minister's visit to Brussels is to attend a number of preliminary discussions to obtain the GSP Plus concession. Prime Minister Wickremesinghe, who reached Belgium via the Brussels International Airport, was welcomed by Sri Lankan Ambassador to Belgium Rodney Pereira at the hotel the Premier is staying at. Tomorrow, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is scheduled to meet high-ranking officials of the European Commission, European Union and the European Parliament.
Excellency, good to see you again. Welcome to Belgium and to Brussels.
Calls for a broad investigation into the central bank bond transaction continued today.
This company called Perpetual Treasuries have very clearly mentioned in their annual profit and loss statement that they had accumulated a profit of 5.2 billion rupees for the year 2015. These are the funds of the public. In fact, there is a complaint regarding it lodged with the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. We have now been informed that the preliminary legal investigation into this complaint has been completed. However, this has not been presented to court for speedy legal action to be taken. The person involved in the bond scam is a person appointed by the United National Party. So for obvious reasons, that group is trying to cover up this bond scam, while the group on the other side is also trying to protect their ministers in this government who stole during the previous regime. Both factions are equally trying to protect their own people. Just like the law is being implemented against the fraud and corruption which took place during the Rajpaksa administration, the law has to be implemented against the fraud and corruption which has taken place during the current administration. There is a committee called COPE. Now, when COPE was to table its report, Ranil Wickremesinghe went to court and obtained an injunction order against the COPE report, preventing it from being publicized. Parliament was dissolved on the 18th of August because we split Parliament through our opposition to the central bank scam. The treasury theft of the central bank has now been exposed. So now what do you have to say about it? The governor of the central bank was sent home and was later given a high position in the government. Now he's going around the world with Ranil Wickremesinghe. He's been taken around the world to show that he is not rogue, when in fact he is one who stole 110 billion rupees.
Here with News First. Now, given the complexity of the issues surrounding the central bank bond issue, it is easy for the public to be confused by the information at hand. In order to address this confusion, News First has compiled the following timeline of events.
Arjuna Mahendran assumes duties as the new governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The Public Debt Department decides to call for a bond issue of 1 billion rupees for a period of 30 years. Urgent meeting with the participation of ministers, Governor of the Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran and other officials regarding the additional financial requirement for the payment of highway contractors. The first bond transaction after the appointment of the new governor takes place. Details of the controversial CBSL bond issue exposed. President intervenes and orders for a committee to be appointed to inquire into alleged losses caused by the February 27th bond issue. Prime Minister appoints 3-member committee. Names of Gamini Pitipana, Mahesh Kalugampitiya and Chandimal Mendis announced as committee members, all of whom have strong affiliations with the UNP. On the very next day, opposition lodges complaint at the Bribery Commission seeking investigation into alleged bond scam. UNP Chairman Malik Samaruwikrama confirms he was present at the meeting held on 26th of February to discuss state funding requirements. Tells News First he attended the meeting as the advisor to the Prime Minister. CBSL Governor admits to News First the failure to communicate to primary dealers its intention to raise more funds through the bond issue. Prime Minister makes statement in Parliament on alleged bond scam. Announces that Arjuna Mahendran is on leave. Opposition stages protest opposite CBSL, demanding that investigations be expedited. Parliament dissolved on the day the initial COPE report on the central bank bond scam was to be produced in Parliament. Another controversial bond issue takes place. Committee on Public Enterprises informs the Auditor General to carry out investigations regarding the matter. Prime Minister informs that Arjuna Mahendran will not be reappointed until investigations into him are completed by COPE. Governor Arjuna Mahendran holds meeting at CBSL, meets all deputy governors and says he will be on leave. President says a new governor will be appointed. President arrives at the central bank to hold a meeting the same evening. Auditor General's report on CBSL bond scam handed over to COPE. President appoints Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy as new governor of the central bank. New governor of the central bank takes oaths before President, promising to uphold the integrity of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Information comes to light that Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited, owned by the son-in-law of the former governor of the CBSL, earned a profit of 5.2 billion rupees for the financial year 2015-16. CBSL draft report on Perpetual Treasuries leaked to the media. The CBSL makes a complaint to the law enforcement authorities to look into the unauthorized release of an internal draft report of the CBSL. The CBSL issues a statement noting with concern the sharp disparity in the performance of primary dealers.
What is required now is, as pointed out by the 3-member committee appointed by the Prime Minister, to appoint a committee that has some constitutional strength or backing to investigate into this matter with some authority, so that their determination will be accepted and the determination will be a conclusive determination after a full investigation. Therefore, how we can achieve this is only by getting the President to appoint a commission of inquiry, which will be an impartial one, which will comprise of eminent personnel who are more experienced in the field, to go into this matter in detail and clear the doubts in the minds of the public.
Locals of the Navimana village in Mirigama have been making a constant plea for the Kalugala road to be constructed for over 6 decades, only because it is the shortest route to Varakapala. The unfulfilled hopes of these locals were made a reality by the Gammadda 100-day initiative today.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
During elections, they come to these areas and do something with a Bowser just for the sake of them saying that they did something and leave. Later, everything just washes away. But now a 3-wheeler, a bicycle or a child can travel back and forth without any fear.
The Kalugala-Navimana road, situated close to Mirigama, is a road which has been neglected by the authorities for over 60 years. This has resulted in locals of Botalegama, Ihilagama, Kotalekanda, Katukitula and Navimana villages to face a myriad of difficulties in reaching the closest town, Varakapala. On the 28th of August, construction on the road began under the Gammadda 100-day initiative and today was opened to the public. It cost us 700 rupees to travel to Warakapallo on the Danu-Ito road.
This is something we could not get done for several decades. The service you have rendered to us today cannot be limited to words. We are extremely happy.
A tree planting program and an event to distribute books to children was also held in line with the proceedings today.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara says that an investigation is ongoing into the death of the former military intelligence officer who is alleged to have committed suicide after writing a letter claiming responsibility for the 2009 murder of Lasantha Vikramatunga.
The body of Ilandarige Edrisingha Jayamanna, a former military intelligence officer, was found hanging inside a house in the Karadupan area in Kegol on Friday. The letter, said to have been written by this individual, was found at the scene, while in the letter the victim allegedly claims responsibility for the 2009 murder of Lasantha Vikramatunga. The letter further noted that the individual known as Milinda Udlagama, who is currently in remand custody, is not responsible for the murder. Jayamanna, who was a father of 3, had retired from the army in 2007 as a sergeant major and had rejoined the service. In 2011, he had fully retired from the service. Final rites were performed today while his wife, who was overseas, had returned to the island. However, a group of relatives, including Jayamanna's brother, who is a senior army officer, had not allowed the media to cover the funeral proceedings. Many problems pertaining to the death of Ilandarige Edrisingha Jayamanna were brought to attention by many newspapers today. According to the Sunday Observer, the name of the army officer who is in custody was not written correctly in the victim's letter. The suspect, known as Premananda Udlagama, alias Ananda Udlagama, has been mentioned as Milinda Udlagama in the letter. Meanwhile, the Sunday Leader newspaper questioned as to why SOCOs, or scene of crime officers, were not directed to carry out investigations on the incident in question. The newspaper points out that if SOCOs were employed in the investigations, forensic evidence and fingerprints could have been collected from the crime scene.
We employ SOCOs especially with regard to murder cases. Since we did not have any doubt that this was a murder and because investigations are ongoing, we did not see the need to employ SOCO officers. If there is a need, the SP and ASP in the area will decide that. SOCO officers are stationed at almost all divisions. There is no problem. We can direct them to conduct investigations if there is a need.
On the day of the incident, the brother of the deceased former military intelligence officer said that his brother had gone to an army camp several days ago.
The day before yesterday, my brother had said that he is going to the camp. He had come home after 3 days from the camp. He was not doing well emotionally after his return.
If he had a desire to free his friend, he could have handed himself over to the CID willingly. We do not know whether he made such an attempt. If he did attempt it, did any group try to stop him? Then he was a victim who was pressurized from 2 sides. Then there is a possibility for such a person to commit suicide.
We received information that this person has committed suicide. Then when we reached the location, we found out that he had hung himself. Accordingly, it would be categorized as a suicide. However, investigations need to be carried out. I am yet to receive these reports. After the reports are submitted, we will decide whether it is a suicide or a murder.
We request the IGP to ascertain how this death occurred. What connections did the deceased have with the army camp before his death? Who are the people whom he associated with closely? Who had spoken to him during this period over the phone? This background information needs to be investigated.
Kavisha Aishani, an upcoming actress in Sri Lanka who attracted the attention of social media recently, was killed in a motor accident early this morning.
Kavisha Aishani, who was returning home from a party around 3 a.m., met with the accident close to the Jubilee Post, Nugegoda. The accident occurred when the car she was allegedly driving crashed into a bus which was parked by the side of the road. Police said even though she was taken to hospital with severe injuries, she had already passed away on the spot. The body of Kavisha Ayashani has been placed at the Colombo South Teaching Hospital and is scheduled to be handed over to her relatives following preliminary investigations.
Though rains have been experienced in several parts of the island, putting an end to the drought, many people are still suffering from water shortages.
This is the water source that fulfilled the needs of many in the Yayatuna village in Mahavilachia. The lake has dried up due to the absence of rain for several months. Though it has been 1 month since the beginning of the Maha season, these people whose livelihood is based on agriculture have not been able to commence work.
Even the health of children has deteriorated due to this unclean water. We are facing many problems.
Farmland in Puswalla Kandula Bibile has been adversely affected by the shortage of water. This is the fate that has befallen papaya and banana plantations. The Waligepole area in Godakawela Udawalawa received welcome rainfall last afternoon. According to the Met Department, a change in the dry weather conditions can be expected due to the intertropical convergence zone, while fairly heavy falls of about 75 to 100 millimeters are also likely in some areas.
Renovation work on several canals in the Magama area in Tissamaharama commenced today under the auspices of Minister Sajith Premadasa.
The minister handed over financial aid today to the Siriketa Agrarian Society in Magama for the renovation of canals. In line with this event, the minister handed over equipment kits, uniforms and a 10,000 rupee allowance each to 408 persons under the Shilpa Savya program of the Construction Industry Development Authority. A group who were rejected by the people, those who were chased away by the public, have suddenly got worked up. What are they planning? They are planning on toppling the government before the 15th. The defeated president now wants to be the prime minister without any shame. It is a group who rob the people's money that are daydreaming about this. Our government does not have people who betray their family and change sides. This government will be stable for another 5 to 6 years. No one can change it.
The island-wide road week aimed at resolving issues in the roads and highways network continued today as well.
The objective of the program is to resolve issues of highways and provincial roads in the country. Roads in Narampalava, Kirti Bandarapura, Davella and Kalaputua were observed today under the new program. Construction on the Papulhena Gulhena Baddu Road in Kandayaya in Madula commenced today. A financial allocation of 30 million rupees has been handed over to the RDA by the Highways Ministry. Under this program, 22 rural roads, 3 provincial roads and 25 roads in divisional secretariats are to be developed.
A wild elephant died after falling into a sewage pit at the Kumbukadawala Primary School in Pulpitigama early this morning.
The wild elephant, who was roaming across the primary school premises, had fallen into the sewage pit at about 7 o'clock this morning. Our correspondent said that the animal died within an hour. A mother who was taking her daughter to Dhamma school had come across the elephant this morning.
When I saw the elephant, I took my child and attempted to run. The animal also started running, and that was when it fell into the pit.
In news overseas, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the BRICS nations which are meeting in Goa have agreed that those who nurture, shelter, support and sponsor forces of terror are as much a threat as terrorists themselves. Indian media reported that without naming Pakistan, Modi had launched a scathing attack on it, escalating India's diplomatic drive to isolate the neighbouring country. Modi said the BRICS nations, a grouping of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, have agreed that combating terror, including cross-border terror, will be a key priority. Earlier, the Indian Foreign Minister reported that during a closed-door meeting, without naming Pakistan, Modi called it the mothership of terrorism. The BRICS members were scheduled to meet the BIMSTEC or Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation comprising Sri Lanka, Nepal, Myanmar and Bangladesh for an outreach meet later this evening. Indian media reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin, during the bilateral meeting with Modi yesterday, condemned the UD attack in which 19 soldiers were killed. BRICS leaders agreed to boost trade and development cooperation during the Business Council meeting held today.
We count on the BRICS Business Council to work with us to achieve our common aim of strengthening mutual trade, enhancing business opportunities, building investment linkages, promoting innovation, and removing bottlenecks to intra-BRICS commerce.
China stands ready to work with all the other BRICS parties to support the work of the new development bank. Russia will continue contributing to bringing the economies of the 5 states closer to create conditions for new business projects. It invites all the business communicators of the BRICS countries to work out on projects and our partnership ties with Russian companies.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of the Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Arundhati Murad Nayak. Good night.